So this will be part 2 of my Thomas Pynchon retrospective. So I've done Mason and Dixon, and this is probably his second most easy to get into novel. It's Inherent Vice. Just a quick note, I won't be mentioning the Paul Thomas Anderson film till near the end, because you know it's a book as well. It's not just like a screenplay or something. It is a book. So I won't be mentioning that till the end. So, basic plot of Inherent Vice. Detective Doc Sportello is a stoner in the tail end of the hippies. It's 1969, Manson's just committed his murders, and everyone's a little bit on edge. Within this milieu, his ex-girlfriend Shasta Fay comes back into his life, tells him a wild story about a billionaire land developer who's gone missing. It's suspected that his wife has kidnapped him, put him in a loony bin in order to get the cash from him, which he has hoarded away. And through this, he gets involved in several different cases, such as the disappearance of the surf band saxophonist Coy Harlington, and various different things happen to him in a Pynchon-esque paranoid thriller, crossed with a sort of pastiche of a Raymond Chandler novel, crossed with a sort of look back at the tail end of the hippie era. So that is the plot of Inherent Vice, Thomas Pynchon's 7th full-length novel in about something like 50 years. Not a very prolific man at all, but yes, you look at it.
I was having a good peruse.
Okay.
I've just read like the first paragraph. It's the Thomas Pynchon book I've seen so far, which actually reads like a normal book.
Yes, that's the thing.
I actually read the opening paragraph and I kind of got exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Brilliant opening. His girlfriend comes back into.
I'm just reading it in the narrator's voice.
Yeah.
Like, she came along the alley and up the back steps the way she always used to do. Doc hadn't seen her for a year. Nobody had.
I love that opening line.
Yeah.
It's very sort of like Chandler-esque, isn't it?
No, see, I actually think I could read this one.
Think you could read that one?
I actually think I could read this one.
Alright, you should borrow it if you want.
Borrow it, yeah.
Oh, I need it back because there's bits I've bookmarked. So it's much more accessible than any other Pynchon novel, even more than Mason and Dixon. I'll get into why I think Mason and Dixon's a better novel to start with later. But it's a straightforward sort of detective novel. I said I wouldn't mention the film till the end. I'm going to mention it now anyway. So basically, what happens is it's more told in sort of a short story, sort of vignette style. So things will happen. Each chapter sort of concludes its own mini story, which adds up to the top. The film tried to put every single story together and make it so it all ran at the same time, which is why it's a mess. Even though I think it's...
Oh, you're admitting it's a mess.
I admit it's a mess. I think it's an enjoyable mess, but it is a mess. From reading a novel, my enjoyment of films has gone down. But anyway, we're not talking about the film. Get it out. Yes, there are dozens of main characters in this, all of which are brilliantly developed. Do you remember in the film, the guy who had the swastika tattoo on his face?
Very vaguely.
Basically, he's in like one scene. He's just a sort of stereotypical bad guy. Again, like everything in the film, it references him lots before he's in it. But in the book, he has like a fully developed arc. He gets married at one point. He's called Puck Beaverton, the character. He gets married at one point. He's like he's basically a fully realised character who you develop feelings for because he actually does things.
Okay.
As opposed to the film where everyone's in it for 1 second and then leaves. Like, everything is like that in this book. There's so many characters, and what's brilliant is the way that it handles them all so perfectly. As like all detective things, it uses the fact it is a detective agency to have people come in and out of the story sort of organically. Someone will come in, give him some advice, and then they'll leave. The only thing what's great about this is, instead of just leaving, the novel brilliantly sort of brings them back into the fold a lot. Like, there's a bit where he's told by a character called Khalik Tariq, I think. I can't remember the character. He's a member of the organisation, the Guerrilla Foundation or something. They're like a piss take of the Black Panthers, and he's in it to tell Doc to go to a certain place. But then what happens is that he comes back into it again, like recurringly. He has a relationship with another male character he met in prison, which is really well handled, and it has like a full arc just for this one character who could have very easily just been like a jokey one-off. But what's great about the novel is the way it entwines every single character into its main labyrinthine story.
He uses punctuation properly in this one as well.
He does, as opposed to Mason and Dixon, you mean?
Yeah, he actually uses punctuation correctly.
Yeah, but it's it's like a postmodernist technique, is not using punctuation in different ways. Like, have you read Cormac McCarthy?
Yes.
Well, he just doesn't use any. He doesn't even...
Why?
Well, the reason why it's in that is to make it seem as if everything is of equal importance, so as if dialogue and sort of description is of the same essence, and you're supposed to get what is dialogue through reading it and sort of adjusting to the style. So like, you know it's dialogue because it reads as dialogue as opposed to the descriptions, to make it sort of like you're immersed in that kind of harsh cowboy life. Mason and Dixon does it because it's a piss take, or uses punching incorrectly, because it's a piss take of older novels. So it's like a piss take of the way they would use incredibly complex, convoluted punctuation. That's why. But yeah, that's another reason why this is quite accessible.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I must admit, I'm quite
Yeah.
I'm quite conservative when it comes to my novels.
I'm not at all.
I like having my punctuation. I like having my proper grammar.
Oh, I'm not at all.
No, I'm quite conservative when it comes to my books.
Yeah.
I like paragraphs and proper punctuation and crap like that. You know, you can experiment all you want.
Yeah.
But I look at like Cormac McCarthy and I'm like, okay, I get what you're doing, but
he's like the best. He's like the best writer of modern times.
Said Marcus.
Said loads of people. He's like the most acclaimed one.
No, I agree. I'm just doing like a novel. Chris said.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Chris said stutteringly.
Yeah. Then it's another 10 out of 10. I'm just going to give that away straight away. But I do think it is one of the weakest Pynchon novels. The reason why, I think, is just because that kind of stuff, well, no, it's just after Manson, the hippie era, has been done to death, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
You're pretty much like, you can't move for end of the 60s dream works of fiction and...
Oh, people are making films about that, like, bloody at the end of the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like the Rolling Stones film.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Oh, Gimme Shelter.
Yeah.
No, he's got the Malay Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, Gimme Shelter, yeah. That was about the end of the 60s, and that was like a year after the event, yeah.
And also you've got Easy Rider, the worst film to ever become popular.
I don't like Easy Rider at all.
No, it's a dreadful film. Like, do you remember the bit where he's like, "We blew it, we blew it."
Yeah.
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 But that's why. But it is like one of the definitive sort of like portraits of that, because it's the world he develops is so fully realised. It's just that it's not a world that feels as new as Mason and Dixon or Gravity's Rainbow. The way that they develop these like massive, huge stories and like paint these vivid pictures of these other like ones, it just makes it a bit more interesting than another sort of late 60s novel. But other than Mason and Dixon, this is the easiest one to get into. An example of what I'll do often is give lists that make it like they're full of information and character to give it's obviously world building, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've got stuff like here. Around nightfall, Tito let Doc off on Duncrest, and it was like landing on some other planet. He walked into the pipeline to find a couple hundred people he didn't know, but who were acting like long-term regulars. Worse, nobody he did know was there at all. No Ensenada Slim, or Flacco the Bad, no Saint Flip or Downstairs Eddie. See, you already get a sense of what that character's lifestyle is like just through that one paragraph. You know his friends, you already have nicknames, you can guess that it's like a hippie Milo just from that, because of the type of names they've got. It feels quite urbane, so you already get the idea that it's set in LA. It's set in LA, by the way.
Okay.
A fictionalised version of the beach called Gordetta Beach. Yeah, so it's just brilliant stuff like that. He's a master at developing these different worlds that you've got through here. The theme of the book, like most Pynchon books, it's about America and it's about capitalism. What it does is through the tale of Mickey Wolfman, who's the guy who does go missing. His girlfriend's kidnapped him.
I remember that name from the film.
Yeah, he is a developer. He's like a land developer. He makes big like high rises in places, obviously to collect rent. And he has a crisis of conscience, and he wants to give all of his property away for free. The government, and like it's implied, again, it's another Pynchon book where a character's on the periphery of a conspiracy. He doesn't really know what's going on, and the audience doesn't really, you get like a sense of what it is, but you don't get any definitive answer. It's suggested that the government have taken him to be sort of reprogrammed, so he doesn't give his land away because it's bad for the capitalist machine. So you've got stuff like that in there as a critique of capitalism, because it's set in the sort of obviously transition between the hippie generation and the me generation. So you can see within the novel, even though it doesn't take up a major part of it, it's by far the most plot-based Pynchon novel, with maybe the exception of The Crying of Lot 49, which is only like 140 pages long. With the exception of that, it's probably the most plot-based. All this stuff, like the end of the hippie generation. Even what surprised me most from reading it after watching the film is, do you know how the film is mainly about his relationship with his ex-girlfriend?
Yeah.
That's only like a really small part. Mainly the novel is just a detective novel where every chapter is full of jokes and hijinks and stuff like that. All these other, like, the bits that give it thematic depth, they're there, but they don't overload the novel. There is a tendency to do in some novels of similar things. Again, like Easy Rider, there's not a bit where Doc goes, the hippie generation's dead. We blew it.
We blew it, man.
Yeah. We shouldn't have smoked all that pot. There's nothing like that. It's just at the edges. This is a decaying dream, but it's not like, that's not the theme of the novel. The novel's more about other things. It's a plot-based novel. It's an entertainment novel.
Okay.
As much as it is about these deep themes.
A page turner.
A page turner.
I know if I describe a Thomas Pynchon book as a page turner.
I know. This were a bestseller, before the film.
The New York Times bestseller on the front there.
Yeah, it was quite big when it came out. It was it had a bit more of a muted acclaim than his other ones, just because it's less ambitious. But in many ways, that only makes it more enjoyable. It doesn't feel as much like homework as something like Gravity's Rainbow. And I've not read it yet, but Against a Day looks intimidating. 1,200 pages long, with no central narrative. God. Hundreds of main characters. Thousands of speaking roles. Oh my god, it sounds crazy. But yeah, this by comparison is like a fucking Tom Clancy novel or something. He followed up that one with this one. There were a much shorter gap between Against the Day and this as there was with other Pynchon novels. This only took 3 years to write. For a comparison of how long this novel sometimes take, Gravity's Rainbow and Vineland, there was 17 years between, where he did nothing but release a short story collection of stories written in the 50s anyway, so no new writing for 17 years. So normally it takes ages, and then released this novel instead. Obviously, well, it gives it the, I imagine at the time it would have given it the sort of air of being sort of tossed off. I think it did get some mixed reviews when it came out, but it clearly is a labour of love, because he was actually active in the hippie scene. There's an actual really great quote from Thomas Pynchon about the hippie scene, where he said the reason he liked a lot of it, but he didn't like, his problem was the idealisation of youth, especially the eternal kind. Yeah. It's a great quote about why the whole 60s
like what's epitomised in Easy Rider.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all, it's just youth and but no kind of wisdom or anything, just dumb and taking drugs without any kind of the positive aspects of it. Throughout the novel, it makes constant references to a lost island called Luminera, I believe. Hold on a second, actually. Lumeria, which is like a sunken city around LA, and he's using that as a metaphor for America. It's implied throughout the story that sort of Lumeria was this idealised place that was brought down by greed. So I think he's using that. It's not a major part of the novel, but there's all this different stuff in there where you can get, if you get really into it, you can sort of dig into the sort of themes and aspects, but they don't override the narrative or anything. All these critiques of capitalism and American society, it's all around these brilliantly portrayed characters and all this great stuff that makes it such an enjoyable novel. Again, great novel, 10 out of 10. I just think Mason and Dixon is something completely new. It's more typical of Pynchon, so I would start with that one. Then I would move to Inherent Vice. But for what Inherent Vice is, it's pretty much like perfect. Again, the only problem is, and it's not a problem of the novel, it's just a bit of an unoriginal setting which has been done to death.
I would sound a bit like, it sounds like anyone could read it, but it doesn't really prepare you for his other books.
Again, no, that's not a problem with the novel itself.
No,
that's
what I said, yeah.
Yeah. Again, so anyone could read it. Justifiably a bestseller. It's Pynchon in crowd-pleasing mode. Not more. There's no paedophilia in it like there is in Gravity's Rainbow, or any of the other transgressive elements. There are some, like he's famous for having transgressive sex in his novels, and drugs, but obviously because it's a hippie novel, that kind of stuff comes up anyway, and he's much more woven into the narrative, rather than, like Mason and Dixon is an amazing novel, but the way he manages to get that into there is just that some of the characters read a separate book, which has it in about 500 pages in, and that gets woven back into the narrative, but it is closing off the narrative to start something else and then do that again. So yeah, truly great novel. I enjoyed it a lot more the second time than I did the first time, because even though it is really accessible, it was the first one I read, and it just was like right over my head. I'd not read a lot of post-modern literature before. There's so many characters in. I read it over the course of like a couple of months, so I was like just forgetting who characters were and things. But if you've got about a week where you can read, I don't know, 50 pages or something, because you don't want to leave it too long, you'll forget who the characters are. Get Inherent Vice. It's an absolutely top-notch novel, a page-turner and a tour de force. It's one of his weaker efforts, but only in comparison to the fact he has like one of the greatest bibliographies of all time. Great novel. And I'd like to just talk about the film a little bit now, just for a couple of minutes. This makes the film look terrible, this book. Everything in the film, like, like
I told you.
It's not terrible, I still enjoy it, but like I can see its flaws now because of the book. Like in the book, the characters that are in like one scene are fully fleshed out characters, and they have backstories and families and motives. In the film, they just appear, say something to the character and walk off.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it might be the first film ever made where you have to read the book or you'll get nothing out of it.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
You shouldn't have to read a book to get a film.
No, and like the reason the book is so great is because it has all these little stories which have full resolutions, because he treats them individually as stories, but they still add something into the sort of main. A bit like we were talking about season 2 of Deadwood being structured like short stories. That would be the whole, where it adds up to like the end. Like the ending is the crescendo of all the action before, but the action doesn't necessarily just go A, B, C. It's like goes here, 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 and that's what's great about it. That there are these little stories that build, that go in. Like there's a great section where he goes to Vegas, and it's like a standalone thing because he's gone out of the city and he encounters different people. But it sets up things that the ending will pay off. But every chapter in this pretty much works standalone in a way. Obviously, you won't get as much out of it because you don't know who these characters are, because you need to know the beginning and stuff. So like, all it does is put all the different stories together and hope it'll sort of work.
It doesn't.
Because it's hard to even tell what's going on or who the characters are.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. All I need to do is just care.
Yeah.
As long as I care, I can follow anything.
Yeah.
But if I don't, then
even the main character, Doc Sportello, in the film he has like no real definition.
No.
He's a drugged up PI. In the book he has a family and like does things, and like he's got like all sorts of things happen to him. I say he's got like family and friends, and it feels like he's part of a real world where his actions make a difference.
I stand by it. Out of all the Paul Thomas Anderson films I've seen, I think it's his worst one.
I think it's better than Punch Drunk Love.
That's even Punch Drunk Love. I could get something out of it.
No, Punch Drunk Love's a great film. I just don't think it's as good as Inherent Vice.
I'd take Punch Drunk Love over it personally.
Yeah. I do like the way that he played up the element of the fact that Doc's girlfriend has gone. I think that was quite a clever move, because it's a way of finding the transition in time to the character. He's transitioned from his longing for the past when he was with his girlfriend, contrasted with a societal longing for the past. But it's just a lot of the plot doesn't work, and the characters are ill-defined. And this book this shows what you can do with different material, because this book is so much more sort of well-defined. Every character's better. Everyone has motivations, and everything just is flawless in the book. Everything just works in a way that it doesn't in the film, because there's just not enough time to do. I think that to be fair, unless if you were making like a TV series, I think the novel's unadaptable, because there are so many characters and so much happens in the novel. There's just no way you could make it into
it's simple what you do. You just pick one story, flesh it out, and make the whole film that.
I still wouldn't work though, because the stories only work in combination. There's just no reason
you could just take that character and just do like an original story.
Well, that would work. Yeah.
There's no reason to stick slavishly to the book.
Yeah.
You might as well just take that character, take the setting, and just make an original film.
Yeah. Well, there's not even any reason then to make it an adaptation.
Well,
really.
no, not really. No.
Yeah.
Inspired by Inherent Vice.
Inspired by Inherent Vice. Yeah. I just don't really understand anymore what he was trying to do with the film.
Running out of time.
Yeah. But yeah, Inherent Vice, the book, 10 out of 10 out of 10. Next I'll be moving on to probably Vineland, which is one that is seen as lesser Pynchon. I really enjoyed it the first time I read it. It'd be good to see how it holds up. But yeah, Inherent Vice, great book. In my ranking of Pynchon books now after I've read it a second time, I'd probably still say it's 7th best, just because it's not as awe-inspiring. It's not as disturbing as his other ones as well, and it doesn't feel as sort of dreamlike and whimsical like as the other ones, and there are elements I have like a strong connection to in his work. Like some of the stuff is so bizarre and sort of haunting. Inherent Vice doesn't have that. It's more it is just fun and like funny, but it depends, I suppose. Obviously that's between each viewer. It depends what you want from him. If you obviously react to the humour and elements like that of his books, then this will probably be your favourite one. But yeah, great book.